Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's dive into today's story. After Emma rushed out of the cafe, she couldn't help but replay the whole awkward encounter in her mind. Her cheeks were still burning with embarrassment as she walked through the rainy streets of New York, her mind racing with 1,000 thoughts. Why did I do that? Why did I run away? She had never been great at blind dates, but this one felt different. It had felt like a real connection, and she had blown it. She kept walking, not knowing where she was going, just trying to shake the nerves that had taken over her body. A few blocks down, she pulled her jacket tighter around her, feeling the cold more than she ever had before. Her phone buzzed, pulling her out of her spiral of thoughts. It was a text from Jenny. You okay? I didn't hear from you after the date. Hope it went well. Emma sighed deeply and typed back a quick response. Well, funny story, I sat at the wrong table. She chuckled to herself, but the feeling of embarrassment was still fresh. As she arrived back at her small apartment, she threw her keys onto the kitchen counter and plopped onto the couch, the weight of the evening still heavy on her shoulders. She could hear the faint hum of the city outside her window, but all she could think about was the man she had just walked out on. Liam. He hadn't been rude or dismissive, not even when she had made the biggest mistake of the evening. And despite everything, he had asked her to stay, making her feel like she wasn't a total fool. She looked down at her phone again, finding herself scrolling through the messages that Jenny had sent her earlier that day. You said he was quiet. What happened? Emma could almost hear Jenny's voice in her head. She rolled her eyes and typed back, I thought he was someone else. It was awkward. I'm not really sure what to do now. The next day, Emma went through her usual routine work at the diner, picking up extra shifts whenever she could. She was tired and drained, but something kept nagging at her, a thought she couldn't shake. Liam. She hadn't even thought about the last name he mentioned, so she never looked him up. What if I really messed up? She thought about texting him again, but something stopped her. What would she say? Would he even remember her? As she wiped down the counter in the diner, her phone buzzed once again. She grabbed it, surprised to see an unknown number flashing on the screen. Hesitantly, she answered, Hello? Hey, Emma. It's Liam. I hope I didn't catch you at a bad time. His voice was calm and warm, and for a second, she didn't know how to respond. She had been caught off guard. He's calling me? Liam, she asked, trying to keep her voice steady, her heart pounding in her chest. How did you get my number? I've been thinking about our conversation yesterday, he said, his voice a little sheepish. I know it was a mix-up, but I figured I'd call anyway. Maybe grab that coffee you mentioned? There was a long pause before he added, no pressure though, if you don't want to. Emma's mind was racing. This was the last thing she expected. Here she was, just another waitress, and this man was offering her a second chance after she'd literally run away from him the night before. She thought about it for a moment. Should she say yes? Was it a mistake to even consider it? She shook her head, feeling the need to take a step back, but at the same time, a part of her couldn't ignore the possibility. Sure, coffee sounds good, she said, her voice trembling just a little. Great. How about tomorrow at 2 p.m.? I know a place in the city. It's low-key, nothing fancy. Emma agreed, still unsure about what to expect, but at least she wasn't about to make the same mistake twice. After hanging up, she stood in the diner's break room for a few moments, staring at the phone in her hand, trying to process everything. She had to admit it, even to herself she was nervous. The next afternoon, Emma arrived at the cafe Liam had mentioned. She sat at a small table by the window, nervously tapping her fingers against her cup as she waited for him to arrive. The place was cozy, with soft jazz music playing in the background. It was different from the hustle and bustle of her usual hangout spots, and she was starting to feel a little out of place. She had dressed casually but still felt self-conscious, aware of how out of her element she was. As the door opened, Emma's breath caught in her throat. Liam walked in, dressed casually in jeans and a well-fitted shirt, and for a moment, she forgot how to breathe. He looked relaxed, much different from their first meeting at the cafe, but still just as attractive. His eyes found hers, and a small smile spread across his face. He waved, walking toward her. "Hey, Emma. Glad we could make this work," he said, taking a seat across from her. The conversation started off light, with Emma mentioning the weather and her usual struggles at work. But soon, they were both at ease, exchanging stories and finding more common ground than Emma had expected. She laughed at one of his jokes, feeling the tension from the previous night slowly dissolve. And for the first time since their awkward encounter, Emma allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, this wasn't the last time she would see Liam Parker. As the days passed after their coffee date, Emma couldn't stop thinking about Liam. He had called her again, and their conversation had been just as easy as the first one. The more they talked, the more she realized there was something different about him, something that made her feel more at ease than anyone else she'd ever met. He wasn't like the typical guys she'd encountered. He didn't care about her past, her job, or her lack of a perfect life. Instead, he seemed genuinely interested in who she was, what she dreamed of, and where she wanted to go in life. And she couldn't help but wonder, did he feel the same way about her? Despite how much she enjoyed their time together, she kept reminding herself not to get too attached. Liam Parker was a man with a life she couldn't even begin to imagine, and she was just a waitress with a dream. What could they possibly have in common beyond these brief moments of connection? But something inside her was starting to question that logic. One evening, after a long shift at the diner, Emma was sitting in her small apartment, working on some sketches for a new project. The room was dim, with only the soft light of her desk lamp illuminating the pages in front of her. She was so focused on the lines she was drawing that she didn't hear the soft buzz of her phone until it vibrated across the desk. She glanced at it, expecting a message from Jenny, but when she saw the name on the screen, her heart skipped a beat. It was Liam. "Hey, Emma. I've been thinking about you. I'd like to invite you to an event I'm hosting next week. It's a charity gala, and I'd love for you to be my guest. What do you think?" Emma stared at the message for a long moment, unsure of what to say. A gala? She had never been to anything like that in her life. The idea of attending an event filled with wealthy people in fancy outfits made her nervous just thinking about it. But Liam had been nothing but kind to her, and there was something about the invitation that felt sincere. He wanted her there, and that meant something. After a few minutes of hesitation, she typed back, "That sounds amazing. I'd love to go." She put her phone down and took a deep breath. It was just a gala, she reminded herself. It wasn't the start of something bigger, it was just another chance to spend time with Liam, who had already made a lasting impression on her. When the day of the gala arrived, Emma could barely contain her excitement and nerves. She had spent hours getting ready, choosing a dress she had found at a second-hand store and doing her best to make herself presentable. She was aware of the contrast between herself and the glamorous people she would meet tonight, but she was determined not to let her nerves get the best of her. As she stepped out of the taxi in front of the grand venue, she felt a pang of doubt. The building was massive, its lights sparkling in the night sky. It looked like something out of a dream. She took a deep breath and walked up the steps, her heels clicking against the marble floor as she entered the lobby. Liam was already there, looking every bit the part of a businessman in a perfectly tailored suit. When he saw her, his face lit up, and he immediately made his way over to her. "Emma, you look stunning," he said, his voice warm and genuine. "Thank you," she replied, her cheeks flushing. "I'm not used to this kind of thing, but I'm glad I came." "I'm glad you're here," he said with a smile. "Let me introduce you to some of the people here." He led her through the crowd, introducing her to various guests and making her feel as though she belonged. Though the room was filled with well-dressed, sophisticated people, Emma found herself at ease with Liam by her side. They spoke, laughed, and enjoyed the evening, and for the first time in a long time, Emma felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. As the night went on, Liam pulled her aside and they stepped onto the balcony, overlooking the city below. The lights of New York City stretched out before them, and Emma couldn't help but marvel at how beautiful it all looked from up here. "I'm really glad you came tonight," Liam said, his voice softer now, more serious. "I've been thinking about you a lot lately, Emma. I know this might seem crazy, but I think you're someone special." Emma's heart skipped a beat. She hadn't expected him to say something like that. Was he really starting to feel something for her too? "I don't know what it is," Liam continued, "but there's something about you that's different. You're not like the others. And I'm not just saying that." Emma's breath caught in her throat. The way he looked at her, with those soft, searching eyes, made her feel like she was the only person in the world. And for a moment, everything else disappeared. "I feel the same way," Emma whispered, her voice barely audible above the hum of the city. They stood there for a while, looking out at the city, neither of them saying much. But in that silence, they both understood something. This wasn't just a chance encounter anymore. Something had shifted between them. And maybe, just maybe, this was the start of something real. The days that followed the gala were a whirlwind for Emma. She couldn't stop thinking about what Liam had said to her on the balcony that night. She kept replaying the way he looked at her, the sincerity in his eyes, and the way his words made her feel something she hadn't felt in a long time, seen, valued, and maybe even loved. It felt surreal. She had gone from a simple waitress trying to get by to being swept up into the world of a millionaire businessman, a world so far removed from her own. Yet, the more time she spent with Liam, the more she realized how different he was from anyone she had ever met. He wasn't just the wealthy CEO everyone assumed him to be. He was thoughtful, kind, and deeply genuine. For the next few weeks, their relationship continued to grow. They went on more coffee dates, shared dinners, and talked about everything and anything. She found herself opening up to him in ways she never had before. He would listen intently, asking questions about her dreams and her struggles, and he always made her feel like she was important. But as much as she enjoyed being with him, Emma still couldn't shake the feeling that this couldn't be real. He was a millionaire. She was just Emma Brooks, a waitress with a sketchbook and big dreams. How could someone like her ever belong in a world like his? One evening, as she sat at her kitchen table, sketching the outline of a new painting, her phone buzzed with a message from Liam. "Hey, Emma. I've got something I want to talk to you about. Can we meet tomorrow?" Her heart skipped a beat. What could it be? She wondered. They had never really had a serious conversation before, and the way he worded the message made her nervous. She quickly typed back, "Of course, I'll see you tomorrow." "Everything okay?" "Yes, everything is fine. It's just something I want to discuss. I'll explain tomorrow." The next afternoon, Emma arrived at the small, cozy cafe where she and Liam had met for their first coffee date. She sat down at a table by the window, her fingers nervously tapping the sides of her cup as she waited. She had no idea what he wanted to talk about, but the uncertainty made her uneasy. When Liam walked in, she could immediately tell something was different. He looked more serious than usual, his usual easy smile replaced with a thoughtful expression. "Hey," he said, sitting down across from her. "How are you?" "I'm good," Emma replied, her voice betraying a hint of nervousness. "You said you wanted to talk about something?" Liam nodded, his eyes meeting hers with an intensity she wasn't used to. "Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about us, about where things are going. I know we've been taking things slow, but I just wanted to be honest with you. There's something I need to tell you." Emma's heart started to race. What is he about to say? Her mind was spinning. Could this be it? Was he going to tell her that it was too much, that their different worlds couldn't work? "I'm not great at this kind of thing," Liam continued, his voice a little rougher than usual. "But I care about you, Emma. No, I know that this is more than just a fling for me. I'm falling for you, and I don't want to keep pretending like this is just a casual thing. I want to take the next step with you. Emma's mind went blank. She hadn't expected this. She had hoped, sure, but hearing him say it out loud was another thing entirely. The words she wanted to say caught in her throat. She had never been in a relationship like this before, one where she felt so completely seen, and yet so completely out of her depth. "You're falling for me," she whispered, almost not believing her own words. Liam nodded, a small, vulnerable smile tugging at his lips. "Yeah, and I know I've been hesitant about the future, about everything. But I don't want to be hesitant anymore. I want to see where this can go, with you." For a moment, Emma just sat there, processing what he was saying. Could this really be happening? Could someone like Liam, someone with everything, want to be with her? She thought about the last few weeks, the way he had treated her, the way he cared, the way he made her feel special, not because of anything she had but simply because of who she was. "I don't know what to say," Emma said softly, her voice trembling with emotion. "This feels so unreal." Liam reached across the table, gently taking her hand in his. "I know. But it's real. I want this, Emma. I want us to make this work." Tears welled up in Emma's eyes, and she blinked them away quickly. She didn't want to seem weak, but the emotions were overwhelming. She had never allowed herself to dream of something like this, but now that it was in front of her, she realized just how much she wanted it. "I'm scared," Emma admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm scared that I'm not enough, that we come from different worlds, that I'm just not what you deserve." Liam's grip on her hand tightened slightly. "Emma, you are everything I want. I don't care about the world you come from, or the life you lead. I care about you. All of you." The words hung in the air between them, and for the first time, Emma felt like she was truly seen, not as a waitress, not as someone struggling to get by, but as the woman Liam truly cared about. The fear she had been holding onto for so long started to melt away, replaced by a warmth she had never felt before. "I'm ready," Emma said, her voice firm now, full of conviction. "I'm ready to see where this goes, too." Liam's smile widened, and he squeezed her hand. "Good. Because I don't want to do this without you." After their heart-to-heart conversation, Emma and Liam began navigating their relationship with a newfound sense of clarity. The fear and uncertainty that had once held Emma back slowly started to fade, replaced by a growing excitement for what the future might hold. They spent more time together, both exploring the quiet, intimate moments and the bustling, lively ones. Liam made it clear that he wasn't in this for the short term, and Emma felt more seen and valued than ever before. However, despite their growing bond, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't quite right. She could see the difference in their lives. He had a luxurious penthouse, a busy career, and a world that was completely different from her own. At times, she felt like a visitor in his life, like she didn't belong. One day, as Emma was walking through the park near her apartment, she pulled her coat tighter around her, feeling the chill of the autumn air. Her mind was busy with a dozen thoughts. She had been invited to another event by Liam this time, a fundraising dinner, and while she was excited to attend, the anxiety in her chest wouldn't let her forget that she was just a waitress, and he was Liam Parker, the CEO of a successful tech company. She paused on a bench, staring at the leaves that had begun to fall, each one fluttering to the ground, reminding her of how fragile everything felt right now. She checked her phone, and there was a message from Liam. "Hey, Emma. I know things are moving quickly between us, and I just want to make sure you're okay with everything. No pressure, but I want to be honest about how I feel. You mean a lot to me." Her heart skipped a beat. She was so used to seeing Liam as someone untouchable, someone in control of everything, and yet here he was, sending her a message that was full of vulnerability. She couldn't help but smile as she typed her response. "I feel the same way. But it's scary sometimes, you know?" She hit send and sat back, waiting for his reply. Liam's response came almost immediately. "I know. I'm scared too. But I think we've got something real here. Let's just take it one step at a time." Emma felt a warmth spread through her chest as she read his words. One step at a time. It was all she had ever wanted, a relationship that wasn't rushed, a partnership built on trust and understanding, not expectations. She stood up from the bench, feeling lighter than she had in days. Maybe they didn't have everything figured out yet, but for the first time, she wasn't afraid of what might come next. Later that evening, Emma stood in front of her mirror, adjusting the strap of the dress she had picked out for the fundraising dinner. It was modest, but elegant, and she felt a sense of pride in how far she had come. She wasn't just a waitress anymore. She was Emma Brooks, a woman who was learning to accept the love and success that was coming her way. She had learned to embrace her flaws and her fears, and in doing so, she had found a confidence she didn't know she had. When she arrived at the event, the atmosphere was buzzing with energy. The venue was filled with influential people, all dressed to the nines, but Liam was there, waiting for her near the entrance. He looked even more handsome in his formal attire, but it wasn't his appearance that drew Emma in. It was the way he smiled when he saw her, like he was genuinely happy to see her. "Hey, you made it," he said, walking over to her. He gave her a gentle hug, and Emma felt her nerves melt away. "I almost didn't," she admitted with a nervous laugh. "This is all a little overwhelming." "You're doing great," Liam said, his voice soothing. "Just be yourself, that's all anyone will want from you." As they mingled through the crowd, Emma began to relax. Liam introduced her to some of his colleagues and friends, and she found herself enjoying the conversations more than she had expected. It wasn't as intimidating as she thought it would be, and everyone was kind, making her feel like she belonged. But as the night went on, Emma caught a glimpse of something that made her heart drop. Across the room, she saw Liam talking to another woman, a tall, elegant blonde who seemed to be clinging to his every word. They were laughing, and for a moment Emma couldn't help but feel a wave of jealousy and insecurity wash over her. Was this what she was always going to feel around him? Like she wasn't enough? Her thoughts spiraled as she stood by the drinks table, staring into her glass of champagne, but before she could get lost in her worries, Liam was at her side again, his hand gently resting on her arm. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice soft, his brow furrowed with concern. Emma looked up at him, trying to push aside the feelings of doubt that were creeping in. "Yeah, just a little overwhelmed, I guess." Liam smiled warmly. "You don't have to be overwhelmed. I'm right here. And I want to be with you. No one else." Emma's heart melted at his words. She realized then that the insecurity she had felt was just her own fear. Liam had always made it clear that he cared about her, and she had to trust that. "Thank you," she said, her voice a little shaky but filled with gratitude. "I needed to hear that." The rest of the night passed in a blur of laughter and conversation, but for Emma, it was clear the connection she had with Liam was real, and maybe, just maybe, they could make it work despite their different worlds. As the weeks passed, Emma and Liam's connection grew deeper, and Emma found herself more and more entangled in his world. Liam was everything she had dreamed of: caring, successful, and supportive. They spent their weekends together, exploring the city, trying new restaurants, and, of course, discussing their dreams for the future. For the first time in her life, Emma felt like she was living in the moment, not constantly worried about what the next day might bring. But as her relationship with Liam grew stronger, Emma couldn't ignore the creeping feelings of doubt that still lingered in the back of her mind. The insecurities she had battled before were still there, and they seemed to be getting louder. She had spent her entire life trying to make ends meet, working odd jobs just to get by, while Liam had grown up in a world of wealth and luxury. How could someone like her ever fit into his life completely? One Saturday afternoon, Liam invited Emma to his penthouse for a quiet evening. He had promised her that it would be a relaxed night, just the two of them, but when she arrived, she couldn't help but feel out of place. The apartment was stunning, with floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a breathtaking view of the city below. The soft glow of the lights and the luxurious furniture made her feel like she had stepped into a movie set. As she stood in the living room, feeling slightly overwhelmed, Liam came up behind her and wrapped his arms around her waist, pulling her close. "You're quiet tonight," he said, his voice warm and full of concern. "Is everything okay?" Emma hesitated for a moment before turning around to face him. I don't know if I belong here, she admitted, her voice trembling. This place, your world, it's so different from mine. I feel like I'm pretending, like I'm not really a part of it. Liam's expression softened, and he gently cupped her face in his hands. Emma, you belong here with me. You're not pretending, and you never have to be someone you're not around me. You're perfect just the way you are. But Emma shook her head, still feeling the weight of her doubts. I've never had a life like this. I've spent so much time just getting by, doing whatever I could to make ends meet. And then there's you have everything. And I just keep thinking, what if I'm not enough? Liam's grip tightened around her, and he looked at her with deep sincerity. You are more than enough, Emma. You've shown me things I never knew I needed. You make me feel like I'm living in the moment, and that's something I never got from this world I've been a part of. It's not about money or status. It's about who we are together. Emma's heart fluttered at his words, and she allowed herself to believe him for a moment. But as much as she wanted to trust him, the insecurities still lingered. She took a deep breath, trying to push the doubts away. I know this isn't easy, Liam continued. I know we come from different worlds, but that doesn't mean we can't make this work. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to prove to you that I'm here for the long haul. So, what do you say we stop worrying about what we don't have and start focusing on what we can build together? His words were exactly what she needed to hear. Emma looked up at him, seeing the determination in his eyes, and for the first time, she felt the heaviness in her chest start to lift. Maybe it wasn't about fitting into his world. Maybe it was about creating a new world together. I want that, she whispered, her voice full of emotion. I want to build something with you. Liam smiled, his eyes shining with affection. Then let's do it. No more doubts. No more fears, just us. For the rest of the evening, Emma allowed herself to let go of the worries that had been holding her back. She stayed close to Liam, enjoying their time together in his beautiful apartment. They cooked dinner together, laughed, and shared stories of their past. It felt natural, like they had been doing this for years. As the night wore on, Emma realized that, for the first time in a long time, she was no longer afraid of what the future might hold. She was ready to embrace it, with Liam by her side. The following week, Liam invited her to an important event, a charity auction that he was hosting to raise funds for a cause close to his heart. Emma was nervous, but she agreed to go. As she got ready, she looked at herself in the mirror and realized just how far she had come. From the girl who had doubted herself at every turn, to the woman who was now walking confidently into a new chapter of her life, with the support of the man she loved. When they arrived at the event, the atmosphere was just as grand as she had imagined. The room was filled with high-profile guests, each one dressed in extravagant attire, but as soon as Liam entered, all eyes were on him. He was the center of attention, and Emma couldn't help but feel proud to be by his side. He introduced her to several people, and although the environment felt intimidating at first, she soon realized that Liam's world wasn't as overwhelming as it had seemed before. With him, she felt like she belonged. As the night went on, Liam pulled her aside, away from the crowd, and they stood together on the balcony, looking out at the city's skyline. You look beautiful tonight, Liam said, his voice soft. And I mean it, Emma. You are the most incredible woman I've ever met. Emma smiled, feeling the warmth in her heart. Thank you, she said, leaning into him. I feel like I'm finally starting to believe that about myself. And in that moment, as the city lights shimmered below them, Emma knew that, with Liam by her side, she could face whatever the future held because together, they were unstoppable. The weeks that followed the charity event were filled with quiet moments and the occasional grand gesture, as Emma and Liam continued to navigate their relationship. Emma had never felt more secure in a relationship before, but deep down, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Despite how incredible everything seemed with Liam, she still had doubts creeping into her mind. She couldn't help but wonder if she was just a fleeting distraction for him, someone he could enjoy for the moment before moving on to someone more suited to his world. It wasn't something she wanted to admit, but the fear of being left behind haunted her. She couldn't get past the thought that eventually, he would realize that she didn't belong in his life. One evening, after spending a wonderful day with Liam at a local art gallery, Emma sat alone in her apartment, staring at her phone. She had felt so at ease with him all day, laughing, talking, and just enjoying each other's company. But now, in the silence of her apartment, the doubts came rushing back. What am I doing here? She thought. He has everything: the career, the success, the lifestyle. And me? I'm just a girl from a diner, living paycheck to paycheck, trying to make ends meet. How can this work in the long run? Her phone buzzed, snapping her out of her thoughts. It was a message from Liam. Hey, Emma. I know things have been going really well between us, and I just want to make sure we're both on the same page. Let's talk tonight. Her heart skipped a beat. Was he breaking up with her? The thought made her stomach churn. She quickly typed a response: of course. I'll be home in an hour. When Liam arrived, his expression was serious, and Emma couldn't help but feel the tension in the air. He sat down next to her on the couch, and for a moment, neither of them spoke. Emma's mind was racing. What was he going to say? Was this the end? Finally, Liam broke the silence. Emma, I've been thinking a lot about us. And I want you to know that I care about you. I care about you so much that I want to make sure we're moving forward in a way that works for both of us. Emma looked at him, her heart pounding in her chest. What do you mean? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I mean, I know I have a lot of things that you may not have in your life, and I want to make sure that doesn't become something that holds us back. I don't want you to feel like you're not enough, because you are, Liam said, his voice soft but filled with sincerity. Emma felt a lump form in her throat. She wanted to tell him everything: how she was afraid, how she didn't feel worthy of him, how she didn't know if she could keep up with his world. But the words wouldn't come. Instead, she simply nodded, trying to hold back the tears that threatened to spill. Liam reached out and gently took her hand, his thumb brushing over her skin in a comforting gesture. I don't want you to feel like you're pretending or that you have to be someone you're not. You're perfect just the way you are, Emma. And I'm here for you, all of you. Emma looked up at him, and for the first time in a while, she felt a wave of relief wash over her. Maybe it was the weight of her fears lifting, or maybe it was just the truth of his words, but in that moment, she knew that Liam wasn't going anywhere. He was here for the long haul, and he cared about her. I don't want to be scared anymore, Emma said softly, her voice shaking slightly. I just want to be with you, Liam. I want to trust that this is real. Liam smiled, pulling her closer. It is real, Emma. And I'm not going anywhere. We'll figure this out, together. As they sat together, their hands intertwined, Emma realized that she didn't need to have all the answers. She didn't need to know exactly what the future held. All she had to do was trust in what they had right now and the love they were building, one day at a time. She leaned her head against his shoulder, feeling his warmth, and for the first time in a long time, she allowed herself to feel safe. The fear that had held her back began to fade, replaced by the certainty that Liam was her future, and nothing else mattered but the love they shared. And in that moment, Emma knew that she was ready to face whatever came next with Liam by her side. After that night, things between Emma and Liam felt more solid, more real. The fears that had once plagued Emma slowly began to fade, replaced by a growing sense of trust. She started to believe that she was worthy of the love he offered. The doubts that had crept into her mind for weeks, the feeling that she didn't belong in his world, that he would one day realize she wasn't enough, seemed to lose their grip on her. Liam was patient with her, understanding, and more than willing to make sure she felt secure. Every day spent together felt like a step closer to something they could build. And that meant everything to Emma, but just when everything seemed to be falling into place, something unexpected happened. One evening, as they were leaving a quiet dinner at one of their favorite spots, Emma received a call. The number was unfamiliar, but she answered anyway. Hello, she said, her voice curious but cautious. Emma Brooks, a stern voice on the other end of the line asked. Yes, speaking, she replied, her curiosity now mixed with a sense of unease. This is Rachel from the bank. We've been trying to reach you regarding an issue with your account. There seems to be some irregular activity. We need you to come in as soon as possible. Emma felt her stomach drop. She had been struggling to keep up with her bills, but this? She hadn't expected something like this to happen. I'll come by first thing in the morning, she said, trying to keep her voice steady. After hanging up, she turned to Liam, who had been listening in silence. What happened? He asked, sensing her tension. I don't know. Something about my bank account, Emma replied, her voice shaking slightly. I have no idea what it's about, but I need to figure it out. Liam reached out and took her hand. We'll figure it out together, he said softly, giving her a reassuring smile. The next morning, they went to the bank, and as Emma walked into the office, her heart was racing. The stress of the past few weeks had been building, and now it felt like it was all crashing down. The bank representative was waiting for her and quickly led her into a private room. Ms. Brooks, we've noticed some suspicious transactions in your account, the representative began. It appears someone tried to access your funds without your knowledge. Emma's heart raced. What does that mean? Who would do something like that? The representative explained that someone had attempted to transfer money from her account, but fortunately, the bank's security systems had flagged it in time. Still, the fact that someone had tried to steal from her left Emma shaken. I'll need to file a report and have our security team look into it further, the representative said, but for now, we've temporarily frozen the account to prevent further issues. Emma nodded, feeling a weight on her chest. She had never been good with money, but this was the last thing she needed. She had worked so hard to keep afloat, and now someone was trying to take it all away. Liam, who had been standing quietly beside her, squeezed her hand once more. We'll get this sorted out. You're not alone in this, Emma. I've got you. Emma looked up at him, grateful for his unwavering support. As they walked out of the bank, Emma felt a sense of relief knowing that Liam was by her side. I don't know what I would do without you, she said softly, her voice full of gratitude. You don't have to worry about that, Liam replied with a smile. You have me, and we'll get through this together. No matter what happens. And in that moment, Emma realized just how much she had come to rely on Liam, not just for the support he provided, but for the love that he gave without hesitation. She felt more confident than she ever had before, knowing that with him by her side, she could face anything life threw her way. As the days went by, Emma continued to work through the issues with her bank account, but she was no longer carrying the weight alone. Liam was there every step of the way, offering her both emotional and practical support. It wasn't just about the big gestures anymore, it was about the quiet moments, the everyday acts of kindness that meant the most. One afternoon, after they had finally resolved the issue with the bank, Liam surprised Emma with a visit to a local art studio. It was a small, cozy place filled with canvases and sculptures, and Emma's heart warmed at the sight. I thought you might like this, Liam said, his eyes sparkling. I know you've been wanting to focus on your art, so I thought maybe you'd want to start here. It's all yours, Emma. A space to create. Tears filled Emma's eyes as she looked around. Liam, I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, he replied with a smile. I just want to see you happy, and if this helps, then it's all worth it. And in that moment, Emma realized that she wasn't just receiving love from Liam, he was actively helping her become the person she had always wanted to be. He believed in her dreams, and in their future together. This was no longer about whether she fit into his world. This was about creating a world together, a world where they both belonged. And Emma knew, without a doubt, that this was just the beginning of something extraordinary. Months passed, and Emma and Liam's relationship continued to flourish in ways neither of them had imagined. The art studio Liam had given her became a place of peace and creativity. Emma poured her heart into her paintings, and with each brushstroke, she felt herself growing stronger, more confident. For the first time in her life, she didn't have to hide behind her insecurities or feel like she wasn't enough. She was doing what she loved, and Liam supported her every step of the way. They spent countless evenings in their little world, away from the pressures of their respective lives, and Emma found herself falling deeper in love with him every day. Liam was not just a successful businessman, he was a man who saw her, truly saw her. And that made all the difference. One sunny afternoon, as Emma sat in her studio, sketching out a new piece, she received a text from Liam. "Meet me at our place. I have something I want to show you." Her heart skipped a beat. The excitement and curiosity bubbled up inside her. What could it be? She cleaned up her brushes and quickly headed to the apartment they had begun sharing, their place now feeling like home. As she stepped inside, the warmth of the space immediately soothed her. The familiar scent of Liam's cologne mixed with the faint aroma of fresh coffee filled the air. She followed the sound of his voice into the living room. Liam was standing by the window, a smile playing at the corners of his lips as he turned to face her. "Hey," he said softly, walking over to her. "I've been thinking about this moment for a while now." Emma raised an eyebrow, feeling a sudden flutter in her chest. "What's going on?" she asked, her voice light, but filled with anticipation. Liam reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, velvet box. The world seemed to slow down as he dropped to one knee in front of her, his eyes never leaving hers. "Emma," he began, his voice steady but filled with emotion, "from the moment I met you, I knew my life had changed forever. You are everything I never knew I needed, and more. Your love, your strength, your passion for life. I've watched you grow into someone I am beyond proud of. I've loved every moment we've shared, and I want to spend the rest of my life showing you just how much you mean to me." Emma's breath caught in her throat as she stared at Liam, her heart beating faster with each word he spoke. "Will you marry me?" he asked, holding out the ring, a simple but stunning diamond that sparkled in the soft light of their living room. Tears welled up in Emma's eyes as she looked down at the ring, then back at him. This was it. The moment she had been afraid to dream of. The moment that, just months ago, felt so far out of reach. She had come so far, and now, here they were, building a life together. "Yes," she whispered, her voice breaking with emotion. "Yes, I will marry you." Liam's face lit up with the brightest smile she had ever seen as he slid the ring onto her finger, and the weight of the moment seemed to settle around them like a warm embrace. He stood up, pulling her into his arms, and she could feel the love radiating from him as he kissed her softly on the forehead. "I love you, Emma," Liam whispered, his voice full of conviction. "I love you too," Emma replied, her voice trembling with the depth of her feelings. "More than I ever thought possible." As they stood there, holding each other, Emma felt a sense of peace wash over her. She had been scared for so long, terrified that she wasn't enough, that she didn't belong. But in this moment, with Liam, she knew that all the fears, all the doubts, had been worth overcoming. They were building something beautiful together, and the future was full of endless possibilities. And as the sun set outside their window, Emma knew one thing for sure: this was just the beginning of their story. The beginning of forever.